This is the Pierre Burton Show. Bruce Lee, Mandarin Superstar, production 1892, recording December 9th, 1971, in Hong Kong.
Did you look at many Mandarin movies before you started playing in the first one?
Yes.
What did you think of them when you saw them?
Quality-wise, I mean, I have to admit that it's not quite up to the standard. However, it is growing and it is getting higher and higher and going toward that standard, than what I would term quality.
They say the secret of your success in that movie, The Big Boss, which was such a success, you rocketed you to stardom in Asia, was that you did your own fighting.
Well, I mean, definitely in the beginning, I had no intention or whatsoever that what I was practicing and what I'm still practicing now would lead to this to begin with. But martial art has a very, very deep meaning as far as my life is concerned, because as an actor, as a martial artist, as a human being, all these I have learned. Martial art include all the combative arts like karate or karate, judo, Chinese kung fu or Chinese boxing, whatever you call it. All those. You see, like Aikido, Korean, I can go on and on and on. But it's a combative form of fighting. I mean, it's not, some of them became sport, but some of them are still not. I mean, they're used, for instance, kicking to the groin, jabbing fingers at the eyes and things like that.
Can you break 5 or 6 pieces of wood with your hand or your foot?
I'll probably break my hand and foot.
But tell me a little bit, you set up a school in Hollywood, didn't you, for people like James Garner and Steve McQueen and the others?
Yes.
Why would they want to learn Chinese martial arts? Because of a movie role?
You see, actually, I do not teach, karate, because I do not believe in styles anymore. I mean, I do not believe that there is such thing as like Chinese way of fighting or the Japanese way of fighting or whatever way of fighting, because unless human beings have 3 arms and 4 legs, we will have a different form of fighting. But basically, we have only 2 hands and 2 feet. So styles tends to not only separate man, because they have their own doctrines, and then the doctrine became the gospel truth, that you cannot change, But if you do not have styles, if you just say, well, here I am, as a human being, how can I express myself totally and completely? Now, that way, you won't create a style, because style is a crystallization, I mean, that way, it's a process of continuing growth.
You talk about Chinese boxing. How does it differ from, say, our kind of boxing?
Well, first we use the feet.
That's
and then we use the elbow. And
you use the thumb too?
You name it, man.
You use it all.
You have to, you see, because, I mean, that is the expression of the human body. I mean, everything. I mean, not just the hand. And when you're talking about combat, well, I mean, if it is a sport, now you're talking about something else. You have regulations, you have rules. But when you're talking about fighting as it is, with no rules,
real fighting,
well then, baby, you better train every part of your body. And when you do punch, now I'm leaning forward a little bit, hoping not to hurt any camera angle. I mean, you gotta put the whole hip into it and snap it and get all your energy in there and make this into a weapon.
Tell me, can you do a little bit of it? Just so
hand-wise, it's very slow.
How is it?
And you push it out, but all the time you are keeping the continuity going. Bending, stretching, everything, suppose, I mean, you just keep it moving. The idea is running water never grows stale. So you got to just keep on flowing.
Interesting. We don't, in our world, and haven't since the days of the Greeks who did, combine philosophy and art with sport. But quite clearly, the Oriental attitude is that the three are facets of the same things.
Man, listen, you see, really, to me, okay, to me, ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself. Now, it is very difficult to do. I mean, it is easy for me to put on a show and be cocky and be flooded with a cocky feeling and then feel like pretty cool and all that. Or I can make all kinds of phony things, you see what I mean? Blinded by it. Or I can show you some really fancy movement. But to express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself, and to express myself honestly, now that, my friend, is very hard to do, and you have to train. You have to keep your reflexes so that when you want it, it's there. When you want to move, you're moving, and when you move, you are determined to move, not taking 1 inch, not anything less than that. If I want to punch, I'm gonna do it, man, and I'm gonna do it, you see. So I mean, so that is the type of thing you have to train yourself into it, to become one with the, you think?
So now, two things have happened. First, there's a pretty good chance that you'll get a TV series in the States called The Warriors, in which you use what, the martial arts in a Western setting?
That was the original idea. Now,
Yeah.
Paramount, you know, I did Longstreet for Paramount, and Paramount wants me to be in a television series. On the other hand, Warner Brother wants me to be in another one, but both of them, I think, they want me to be in a modernized type of a thing. And they think that Western idea is out, whereas
You want to do the Western, eh?
I want, because you see, I mean, how else can you justify all these punching and kicking and violence except in the period of the West? I mean, in nowadays, I mean, you don't go around on the street kicking people or punching people, because if you do,
You came back to Hong Kong. We're on the verge of success in Hollywood and full of it, and suddenly, on the strength of one picture, you become a superstar. Everybody knows you. You have to change your phone number. You get mobbed in the streets. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to be able to live in both worlds? Are you going to be a superstar here, or one in the States, or both?
well, let me say this. First of all, the word superstar really turned me off, and I'll tell you why. Because the word star, man, it's an illusion. It's something what the public calls you. You should look upon oneself as an actor, man. I mean, you would be very pleased if somebody say, hey, man, you are a super actor. It is much better than, superstar.
Yeah, but you've got to admit that you are a superstar. You're not going to, if you're going to give me the truth.
I'm honestly saying this, okay? Yes, I have been very successful, okay? But I think the word star I do not look upon myself as a star. I really don't. I mean, believe me, man, when I say it. I mean, I'm not saying it because
Well, what are you going to do? Let's get back to the question.
Okay.
Are you going to stay in Hong Kong and be famous? Or are you going to go to the United States and be famous? Or are you going to try and eat your cake and have it too?
I am going to do both because, you see, I have already made up my mind that in the United States, I think something about the Oriental, the true Oriental should be shown.
Hollywood sure as heck hasn't.
You better believe it, man. I mean, it's always the pigtail and bouncing around, chop, with the eyes slant and all that.
Let me ask you, however, about the problems that you face as a Chinese hero in an American series. Have people come up in the industry and said, well, we don't know how the audience are going to take a non-American?
Well, such question has been raised. In fact, it is being discussed, and that is why The Warrior is not going to be on.
I see.
You see, because unfortunately, such thing does exist in this world. You see, like, I don't know, certain part of the country, right, where like they think that business-wise it's a risk, and I don't blame them. I mean, in the same way, it's like in Hong Kong, if a foreigner come and became a star, if I were the man with the money, I probably would have my own worry of whether or not the acceptance would be there. But that's all right, because if you honestly express yourself, it doesn't matter. See? Because
Are you, how about the other side of the coin? Is it possible that you're fairly hip and fairly Americanized? Are you too Western for Oriental audiences, you think?
Oh man, like, how? I have been criticized for that.
You have, eh?
Oh,
I would
yes,
think
definitely. Well, let me say this. When I do the Chinese film, I'll try my best not to be as American as I, have been adjusted to for the last 12 years in the States. But when I go back to the States, it seems to be the other way around. You know
You're
what
too
I mean?
exotic, eh?
Yeah, man. I mean, they're trying to get me to do too many things that are really for the sake of being exotic. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, sure.
So it's really, I mean, it's
when you live in both worlds, it brings us problems as well as advantages, and you've got both. Tell me about the big break when you played in Longstreet. I must tell the audience that
That's it.
Bruce Lee had a bit part or a supporting role in the Longstreet series, and this had an enormous effect on the audience. What was it?
Well, you see, the title of that particular episode of Longstreet is called The Way of the Intercepting Fist. Now, I think the successful ingredient in it was because I was being Bruce Lee.
Yourself.
Myself, right. And did that part, just express myself, like I say, honestly express myself at that time. And because of that, I brought, favorable mentioning in like New York Times, which says like the Chinaman, who incidentally came off quite convincingly enough to earn himself a television series, and so on and so on and so forth.
Can you remember the lines by Sterling Sullivan, the key lines?
He's one of my students, right?
Was he too?
Yes.
Everybody was your student. But you read, there were some lines that express your philosophy. I don't know if you remember them or not.
I remember that. I
Let's
said,
hear.
this is what it is, okay?
You're talking to Longstreet, played by James Francisco.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.